And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take
vetoed the
books
bill.
out and make their own decisions.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah,
Power
I
parents, you vetoed
stopped the
it.
bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
That moment didn't turn out very well for Terry McAuliffe and Democrats. Joining me now, great investigative reporter for the Daily Wire, Luke Rosiak, author also of the book Race to the Bottom. Okay, Luke, things kind of changed in Virginia ever since then. I remember I even had to live there for a year, and it was a blue place. I remember looking at the TV ads, the yard signs, and it was blue. Granted, I was in Northern Virginia, the blue part. Now we have this Republican governor and a big election coming up. What happened?
Yeah, well, tomorrow's the big day. Virginia is one of the only states that has elections in off years. Republicans controlled the state legislature in Richmond for decades until 2019, when the Democrats added the House and the Senate to their Democrat governor, and they had total control for 2 years. They did some crazy things, like you just saw with, parents. Basically, schools became the big issue, and the Democrats doubled down on basically the teachers' union message. They closed schools. And it was 2 years ago that Governor Glenn Youngkin won his surprise victory. So now, on Tuesday, we'll see elections to determine whether Republicans can control the Senate. They need to take back the Senate for Youngkin to basically do the things he wants to do. The Democrats are counting on basically just distracting people with abortion and national stuff, with like invoking Donald Trump and things like that. But the Democrats have really swung left since last time. So if people think it's going to be like it was in 2019, it's actually going to be a lot more radical Democrats. A lot of the more moderate ones lost their primaries. There's a lot of discontent even among traditional Democrats here, where this incoming batch of Democrats is kind of poised to be more radical than anything we've ever seen.
Now, hold on. I want to nail down on that for a second. You say the moderate ones are losing and the radical ones are winning, so Virginia's going the other way?
In the Democrat primary, yeah. So it's kind of a low turnout primary election, especially because it's an odd number year. You're not voting for the president. You're not voting for Congress. And so the people that wind up turning out in the Democrat primary are the most hardcore partisans. And so you have things like kind of a traditional sort of Bill Clinton Democrat who has been in office for a long time, was defeated by this far left school board member who now wants to be promoted to the state house. And she used her school board position to retaliate against her election opponent, who's a conservative teacher, and basically had to try to have her disciplined. So it really seems like something pretty corrupt going on. And then the school board races, we were talking about the House of Delegates, the Senate, and then school board races are the big ones, and then prosecutors as well. And so you have a guy down in Chesapeake who's basically a Satanist. He tried to have a after-school Satan club in schools, and he kept pushing that even after a Satanist murdered 7 people just 5 minutes away from his school. He's talking about how he wants all the kids to join the Satan club because if they have the capacity for logic and critical thinking, they wouldn't be Christians. He's running with the full backing of the Democrat Party. And then down at the school board level, you have a DOJ lawyer, a current DOJ lawyer, who's running an overtly Democrat partisan campaign for the Loudoun County School Board. And she's running on a platform that parents' rights advocates are, quote, extremists. And that's likely a violation of the Hatch Act, which is supposed to prevent federal employees from overtly being political. Certainly DOJ employees, you really don't want to be political because of the things like you've seen Attorney General Merrick Garland kind of invoked or mobilized the FBI to go after parents. They even cited the father of the rape victim, the transgender rape cover-up in Loudoun County. So Loudoun County was kind of ground zero for the DOJ intimidating parents. And now we have a DOJ lawyer running for office as a Democrat in Loudoun County. There's kind of a lot at stake in Virginia. And I think, for whatever we saw during that brief period of Democrat control from 2019 to 2021, if they get control again, they're kind of going to go full throttle because people that were on the fringes of the party back then are now going to be the ones in charge.
Okay, Luke, obviously you've kept us abreast of all the news from Loudoun County over the years, and we appreciate that. So I'm on the outside looking in. I don't live in Loudoun County, I live in Texas. I would assume Loudoun County is a place that is moving right because of how radical it's been, and surely this DOJ nutball running for school board on a platform like that has no chance, right? Surely this county has to be moving that direction.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of concern among parents. We're going to see what happens, but especially in these off-year elections, I think a lot comes down to turnout. A lot of people just frankly don't know what's going on, and that's probably true no matter what state you're in when it comes to these local elections. The guy that's going to be Speaker of the House, if the Democrats win, is a guy named Don Scott. Probably pretty much no one's ever heard of him, but he's going to be essentially the Nancy Pelosi of Virginia if the Democrats win. He's a felon who spent nearly 8 years in prison on drug charges. And he's kind of going to be the leader of the party, and he'd be joining the current top Democrat on the Senate side, who's a lady who runs a marijuana store and was arrested on felony charges. And then she hired the other guy whose picture you're showing right now as his lawyer, and he got those felony charges dropped. So it's kind of this is a guy, Don Scott, who wanted to release murderers from jail when they reach the age of 65, as long as they've served at least 5 years in jail. So basically, you can murder someone when you're 60 years old and know you'll be out in 5 years. And so back in 2019, 2020, he tried to do this bill, and the other Democrats at that time said, no, you're kind of crazy, we're going to block that. Those people have all been defeated, and now he's kind of the insurgent, the up-and-coming flank of the Democratic Party. He's going to be the Speaker of the House if they win. And so you can imagine these violent criminals being released from jail over the objections of the parole department. You can see the Commonwealth attorneys, which is what we call prosecutors here, who tend to overtly put politics over the law, and they run on campaigns that directly say, no matter what the law says, I'm not going to prosecute. They usually say abortion, but you can kind of fill in the blank. That's a sentence that is pretty remarkable to hear from a prosecutor, that no matter what the law says, I'm not going to. That's kind of a shocking thing for a prosecutor says, where they're basically saying it doesn't even matter what the House of Delegates does, because we're just going to selectively enforce or not enforce the law. That's something we've actually seen come up with, kind of probably the most famous of the Democrats' crazy candidates here in Virginia, which is the porno candidate, right? Susanna Gibson, who was raising money by filming herself selling sex acts online. Basically, lawyers tell me that what she did is prostitution in Virginia. She could be prosecuted for that. So I did a Freedom of Information Act to the local prosecutor. I found that she's actually coordinating with the candidate, helping her with her PR messaging rather than prosecuting her.
Oh, Luke, honestly, I don't know that this has ever happened. I'm at a loss for words. There's a demon worshiper, and there's a porn star, and there's drug. Luke, just come back soon and keep us updated, brother. Thank you so much.
It does seem like the setup for a joke. Thanks for having me, Jesse.
Thanks, boss. Yeah, you see what I mean? The local elections matter.